A long time ago, during a war on the planet Zalari, the skies were always filled with smoke. Loud blasts shook the ground, and the people lived in fear. In a quiet village, hidden between mountains, a young alien girl named Ta played with a small blue stone. It was smooth and round, and she always kept it close. Her mother had given it to her, saying it would bring her safety that day. The war came too close. Ships flew low, dropping fire on homes and buildings. The village had no soldiers, only farmers and families. Thea ran with her mother, trying to find shelter. But before they could make it, a blast hit nearby. The force threw Tai into the rubble. Her head hurt. She couldn't see clearly. The air was full of dust, and her mother was nowhere to be seen. She cried out, but no one answered. Then she heard footsteps, heavy boots. Someone jumped down from a broken wall. He wore armor scratched, dirty, and marked with a flag she didn't know. He looked human. His eyes scanned the area quickly, then stopped on her. She tried to crawl away, scared, but he raised his hand slowly. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'm here to help." She didn't understand all his words, but his voice was calm. He knelt beside her and checked her wounds. His touch was careful. She watched him pull something from his pouch, a small glowing tool, and he used it on her leg. The pain faded. Then he pulled out a bottle of water and gave it to her. She drank slowly, still unsure, but he smiled, and somehow she felt safer. "What's your name?" he asked. "Thea," she whispered. "I'm Derek," he said. "You're going to be okay." He carried her through the broken streets. Every few steps he stopped to check the area, making sure it was safe. Explosions sounded in the distance, but he kept going. Thea didn't understand why this stranger had come. He wasn't from her village. He wasn't even her kind. But he didn't ask for anything. He didn't look scared, only focused. They found a small bunker where other villagers had taken shelter. Derek placed her gently on a blanket and handed her over to an older woman who knew some human words. Thea reached for his hand, afraid he might leave. He knelt again. "I have to go help others," he said softly. "But you'll be all right now." She nodded, holding back tears. From her pocket, she pulled the blue stone and gave it to him. He looked surprised but took it. "I'll keep it safe," he promised, and then he was gone. That moment stayed in Tia's heart forever. Years passed. The war ended. Zalari began to rebuild. Tia grew up, becoming strong, curious, and hopeful. She studied languages, history, and diplomacy. She joined the Zalari Ambassador Program, determined to help her people connect with other species. But deep inside, she never forgot the human who saved her. She looked for him quietly at first, asked soldiers and travelers, searched records, and visited war museums. But there were many humans in the war, and most files were incomplete. All she knew was his name, Derek Kand, the fact that he had taken the stone. Every time she stood before a council, every time she gave a speech about peace, she thought of him. Not just as a hero, but as the reason she believed humans and aliens could trust each other. If one stranger could show such kindness in the middle of war, there had to be more like him. One day, while visiting the Alliance archive on Terra Nova, she asked an old archivist for help. "I'm looking for a human soldier named Derek," she said. "He helped my people during the war." The archivist raised an eyebrow. "That's a common name, I know," Thea said. "But he was at the Northern Front during the fall of Scifi village. He saved a child, a girl with a broken leg." The archivist blinked, then slowly turned to a wall of sealed boxes. After a long search, he pulled out a record. There was one human soldier who filed a report from Scifi. The man said, "Only one. He disobeyed orders to enter the blast zone, saved a child, left the military a few years later. Name's Derek Hale." Tia's heart jumped. "Do you know where he is?" she asked quickly. "Last known location? Frontier colony? Epsilon Neen," the archivist said. "But that was 10 years ago. No recent updates." Thanked him and left, the building with a new sense of purpose. She had work, responsibilities, meetings, but she couldn't wait anymore. She handed her roll over to her assistant and quietly booked a small transport ship. Epsilon-9 was far away, quiet place often skipped by most travelers, but she didn't care. On the flight, she held a new stone in her hand, carved with a mark. That meant hope in her language. She stared out at the stars and whispered to herself, "I'll find you, Derek. Yeah, even if it takes everything." As the stars moved past her window, TR remembered the warmth in his eyes, the way he spoke to her gently, the way he carried her when she couldn't walk. She didn't know what he looked like now, didn't know if he would remember her, but she knew one thing for sure: she owed him more than thanks. And after all these years, she was finally going to see him again. Epsilon 9 was not the kind of place people visited for fun. It was dusty, quiet, and far from the heart of the galaxy. The buildings were low and made of old metal, the roads were rough, and the skies were always gray. Most who lived here wanted to be forgotten. That's why Thea believed Derek might be here. Her small ship landed at the main port. Only a few others had arrived that day, mostly cargo haulers and farmers. Thea stepped out wearing a long cloak to hide her features. Though peace had lasted for years, not everyone trusted aliens, especially on a frontier like this. She moved carefully through the town. She had one name and one clue: Derek Hale. No one at the port had heard of him. She asked a mechanic fixing a broken hoverbike. He shrugged. Then she asked a vendor selling dry fruit. "Hey," the vendor said, thinking hard. "Don't know a Derek, but there's a man up in the hills. People call him Deke. Keeps to himself. Comes to town once a month. Doesn't talk much." "Do you know where he lives?" Thea asked. The vendor pointed beyond the settlement. "Take the north path. Just follow the edge of the canyon until you see a cabin with solar panels. If anyone's your Derek, it might be him." Thea thanked the vendor and walked the dusty path. The sun was low, painting the sky in dull red. The wind was dry, and the silence felt heavy. But her heart beat fast. Every step brought her closer to the man she had searched for all these years. After 2 hours of walking, she saw it. A small cabin stood alone near the canyon's edge. It had a satellite dish, solar panels, and a small garden. Smoke came from a thin pipe, meaning someone was home. She stopped and stared for a while. Her fingers tightened around the smooth stone in her pocket. This was it. She walked up slowly and knocked on the door. Silence. She knocked again. Softer this time. A voice came from inside. "Hold on." The door opened a moment later. A man stood there. Elder, no. His face had a short beard, his hair was a bit gray, and one arm had a metal brace. His eyes met hers and they paused. He didn't speak right away. Neither did she. "Can I help you?" he asked. Hay took a slow breath. "Are you Derek Hale?" His brow furrowed. "Used to be." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the stone, the one just like the one she gave him as a child. She held it up. "You saved my life," she said softly. He stared at the stone for a long moment, then looked back at her face. The memory came rushing back. The scared girl with the injured leg. The blue stone. Her wide, tearful eyes. "Tha," he whispered. She nodded. He stepped aside and opened the door fully. "Come in." The cabin was small but warm. Fire burned in the corner. There were books, tools, and an old photo of a younger Derek with other soldiers. Thea sat on a chair as he poured hot tea into 2 mugs. "I never thought I'd see you." "Again," Derek said, handing her the cup. "I didn't know if I'd ever find you," she replied. "But I never stopped trying." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Ty began to speak about how she grew up, how she joined the diplomacy corps, and how she had searched through hundreds of reports to find his name. "You inspired me," she said. "Your kindness showed me that not all humans see us as enemies. Because of you, I believed in peace." Derek looked down into his tea. "I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just couldn't leave you there." "But you didn't have to help me," she said. "You did anyway," he smiled slightly. "You gave me a stone, remember?" "I remember," she said, smiling back. "Do you still have it?" He reached over to a wooden shelf and pulled down a small box. Inside was the old blue stone worn, but still smooth. "I kept it," he said. "Carried it during every mission after that. They both looked at the stone. The silence between them now felt calm. "Why did you leave the military?" Thea asked. "Too much fighting," Derek said. "I saw good people get hurt. I got tired of it. This place, it's quiet." She nodded. "But you still help people. They talk about you in town." He chuckled. "I fix bikes and patch roofs. And defend them when trouble comes," Thea added. "I heard that too." Derek shrugged. "I just do what needs doing." They talked long into the night. The stars came out, and the wind outside grew colder. Thea told him about her work with the Galactic Council, about the new peace treaties being signed, and the hope many now shared. "But we still need people like you," she said, "not just on battlefields, but in hearts and minds." He looked thoughtful. "I never planned on being part of anything again." "Maybe you don't have to be," she said gently. "But your story matters. It changed my life." Derek smiled. "Again, this time a little more. You grew up well, Thea." "Thanks to you." He poured more tea. The fire crackled. Outside, the sky stretched wide, filled with stars. Two people, once strangers from different worlds now, sat like old friends, and though many years had passed, something between them had never broken. The next morning, Thea stood outside the cabin, looking at the rising sun. Soft light touched the canyon walls, and a few birds flew low. She closed her eyes and breathed in the cool, dry air. It was quiet, peaceful. This place was far from the war she remembered. And yet, the man who had once run through fire to save her now lived in this quiet corner of the galaxy. Derek stepped out holding 2 cups of hot tea. He handed one to her and joined her on the wooden steps. "Sleep well?" he asked. "Yes," she said with a small smile. "I kept waking up just to be sure this wasn't a dream." He chuckled. "I did the same." They drank their tea in silence. Thea looked at the land around them. "This place is simple," she said, "but it suits you." "After all I saw," Derek said, "I needed quiet. I didn't want to fight anymore." Thea nodded. "You may not be in uniform, but you still protect people. The town talks about you." "They exaggerate," Derek said, brushing it off. "I only step in when things get bad." "How bad?" she asked. He looked into the distance. "Bandits, smugglers. They hit small colonies like this one most of the time. They steal supplies and leave. But sometimes they hurt people. I've driven them off more than once." Thea frowned. "You shouldn't do that alone." "I don't," he replied. "Some of the settlers help, but they're not trained." Thea looked down at her hands. "The Galaxy Council doesn't send protection this far. They think colonies like this are too small." "They're wrong," Derek said. "People here matter." "I agree," she replied. They finished their tea, and Thea stood up. "I want to see the town. Will you come with me?" He hesitated, then nodded. "All right." They walked the path. Back into the settlement. Few people recognized Derek and waved. Some looked at Thea with curious eyes, but no one said anything rude. She noticed children playing, vendors setting up, and workers fixing a broken wall. An old man limped toward them. "Deke," he called. "One of the storage drones is jammed again. You mind having a look?" "Sure, Sam," Derek said. "I'll be right there." Sam looked at Thea and gave a polite nod. "Friend of yours?" "Something like that," Derek answered. As they walked on, Thea smiled. "You've built a quiet life." "I tried," he said. "Trouble always finds its way back." They spent the rest of the day helping around the town. Derek fixed the drone, then helped a child climb down from a broken ladder. Thea helped carry water and spoke with a few settlers in their language. People warmed up to her quickly. As the sun began to set, a loud alarm rang through the town. People froze. Some ran for cover. Derek's face turned serious. "What is it?" Thea asked. "Scout alert," Derek said. "It means someone just flew near our airspace." They ran to the small control post. Inside, a young woman pointed to a screen. "Ship entered orbit 5 minutes ago. No reply to our signal." "It's armed pirates," Derek muttered. "Probably testing us." "What do we do?" the woman asked. "We show them we're not afraid," he said. "Raise the shield and prepare the signal jammer." The woman nodded and started typing. Derek turned to Tia. They might land nearby, just to scare us. What do they want? Food? Supplies? Maybe more. But if they think we're weak, they'll attack again. Thought quickly. We need allies. I can call my people. How fast can they get here? 2 days, she said. But we have to hold until then. Derek nodded. We'll manage. The next morning, a strange ship hovered near the edge of town. It didn't fire, but it didn't leave either. Derek gathered a group of settlers, showing them how to hold rifles where to stand, and how to fall back if needed. Thea spoke with the town's leaders, calming their fears. Help is coming, she said. But we must show we're not an easy target. By nightfall, lights flashed near the edge of the settlement. Derek stood with a small group near the outer wall. Thea stayed close, holding a communicator. The strangers didn't speak. They sent out small drones that circled the area. They're watching us, Derek said. Looking for weak spots. Let them look, Tia said. We're ready. A drone flew low. One of the settlers shot it down. Sparks flew. And just like that, the game changed. The strangers opened fire. Not full weapons, just warning shots. 8. But that was enough. Get to cover, Derek shouted. The settlers took position. Thea relayed a call to her people. We're under attack. Send backup now. For hours, the tension stayed high. Derek moved between cover points, helping the others stay calm. Moved wounded back and sent updates to orbit. Finally, as the sun began to rise, the strangers pulled back. Their ship lifted slowly, then vanished into the clouds. They're gone, someone whispered. Derek didn't relax yet. They'll be back. Not if my people arrive first, Thea said. They're only hours away. Derek sat down, tired but steady. Tia knelt beside him. You're still fighting for others, she said. I never stopped, he replied. But now, I'm not alone. They looked at each other for a long time, no words needed. Something had changed between them. They had stood together, defended something important. And now they would face whatever came next side by side. Thea sat by the old well near the center of the colony, her fingers running over the smooth surface of the stone in her hand. It wasn't the same stone she had given Derek all those years ago, but it carried the same feeling-hope around her. The town was slowly coming back to life. Children ran between houses, laughing like the night before hadn't happened. Vendors reopened their stalls, though their eyes still held worry. Fences were being repaired, and the sound of hammers filled the air. Derek walked toward her, holding a data pad. His steps were slow, yet hadn't slept much, and his bandaged arm still hurt from the skirmish. The patrol saw no sign of the pirates returning, he said. But we can't relax yet. My people will be here by evening, Tia replied. They're sending 2 defense ships. Derek nodded. Good, they'll think twice before coming back. Tia stood. I spoke to your town leaders. They've agreed to set up a permanent shield system. My team will help install it. You're good at this, Derek said with a small smile. Diplomacy, organization, leadership. I learned from someone brave, she said. Derek looked down. I didn't do much. You did more than you know, she replied. He didn't argue. He just looked at her. And for a moment, the world felt quiet again. Like the past and present had folded into one, they walked together through the colony. Some people nodded, others smiled. A few even thanked Taya for her help. One child ran up to her and handed her a small flower. Thea smiled and placed it gently in her hair. When they reached the edge of town, Derek stopped near a tree. It was small, but growing strong. He pointed at it. I planted this when I first got here, he said. A seed from Earth. It survived out here. Barely, he chuckled. But it grew. Like you, Thea said softly. He left everything behind, started over, and made something good. It wasn't easy, he admitted. I kept thinking about the war, the faces, the mistakes. You saved me, Thea reminded him. That was not a mistake. He looked at her, his voice quieter now. I didn't know if you survived. I did, she said. I never forgot. You. Derek sat under the tree, and Thea joined him. The wind was light, brushing their faces. The sky was clear for the first time in days. "Do you ever think about going back?" he asked. "To Zalari?" "No, to your old life. The council. Meetings, the missions." She paused. "I should. That's my duty." "But do you want to?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she watched a group of settlers building a new water pump. They worked together, laughing, helping one another. It reminded her of something she once read, how peace isn't just the absence of war, but the presence of people who care. "I don't know anymore," she finally said. "This place feels different." "It is," Derek said. "No big speeches, no politics, just people trying to live." She smiled. "And one human with a stubborn heart?" He laughed quietly, guilty. They stayed there for hours, talking. About small things, old stories, favorite foods, dreams they once had. Thea found herself laughing more than she had in years. And Derek, who had spent so long in silence, found his voice again. By late afternoon, 2 Alliance ships entered orbit. They sent down teams to help build defenses, bring supplies, and meet with the local council. When TA greeted the officers, they were surprised to see her so far from the capital. "You found him, didn't you?" one of them asked. "Yes," she said, "and he's everything I remembered." The officers offered to escort her back. They reminded her of her duties, her schedule, her reports. She nodded politely. "I'll return soon," she said, "but not today." Later, she and Derek stood near the hill that overlooked the town. The sun was setting again, and the sky was painted with gold and orange. "They want you back, don't they?" Derek asked. "Yes. Are you going?" "I will, but I'll come back." He didn't hide his surprise. "You will?" She stepped closer. "I didn't cross half the galaxy just to say thank you and leave." He looked at her, unsure. "Why?" "Because you matter. Not just what you did in the past, but who you are now." Derek was quiet, and he pulled something from his pocket. The old blue stone. It still held the scratch where she had dropped it as a child. "I've carried this through every dark moment," he said, "and now it's come full circle." Thea placed her hand over his. "This time, let's carry it together." The wind moved around them, and the stars began to shine. Something real was growing between them, not just friendship, not just memory, but something strong, like the tree behind them, growing in hard soil, but reaching for the sky. 3 days had passed since the pirates retreated. With the help of Tia's team, the colony had built stronger walls, installed energy shields, and created a watch system. For the first time in a long while, the settlers felt safe. Laughter returned, markets reopened. Music played in the evenings. Derek stood near the east tower, checking the power lines. Thea joined him, holding a small basket of food from the town's baker. "You've worked non-stop," she said, handing him a piece of warm bread. "Keeps my hands busy," Derek replied. "I'm not good at sitting around." Thea smiled. "Don't have to fix everything alone anymore." He took a bite and nodded. "I'm starting to believe that." They walked through the colony together. Children waved at TA, calling her ambassador Lady, while others asked Derek when he'd teach them to use the slingshot traps again. Life had returned, but a quiet tension still hung in the background. The pirate threat was not over it, had only been delayed as the sun dipped behind the hills. Thea joined a meeting with the colony's leaders and her security team. Holograms of enemy ship designs hovered over the table. "We intercepted a message from the pirates," one officer said. "They plan to return, with more ships." The room fell silent. When Thea asked, "Within the week? Maybe sooner?" "Do they know Alliance ships are here?" "Yes. That's why they're bringing a larger force. They want to make a statement." Derek leaned forward. "Then we need to be ready. We can't run," agreed Tia said. "This colony stands as a symbol of peace between humans and Zalari. We won't let fear destroy that." The plan was simple but risky. TA's team would remain in orbit, hiding their ships behind the moon. When the pirates arrived, they would wait for the signal. The colony would show signs of weakness to lure the enemy in. Then trigger a surprise defense from both ground and air. Over the next few days, Derek trained volunteers. Tia helped coordinate communication between settlers and the Alliance. Every hour was used. Traps were placed, turrets were activated, and bunkers were prepared. On the night before the attack, Tia sat with Derek by the small tree he had planted years ago. Its leaves now shimmered under the moonlight. "Are you scared?" Tia asked quietly. "Always," Derek replied, "but not like before. This time I'm not alone." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Something happens, don't," he said quickly. "We're both going to make it. Promise?" He reached out, gently taking her hand. "Promise." Morning came with silence. Then at noon, dark shapes appeared in the Sci-Fi enemy ships, larger than before. They hovered just outside the colony's range. The settlers stayed in place, pretending to be unprepared. No ships were seen above. No weapons were fired. The pirate leader's voice boomed through an open channel. "This is our land now. Surrender, and we'll go easy on you." Derek stood at the top of the main wall, holding a cum. "You're welcome to try and take it. You're outnumbered," the pirate snapped. "Fools." "We've been called worse," Derek replied calmly. Minutes later, the attack began. Drones dropped from the sky. Pirate soldiers stormed toward the walls. Plasma blasts lit the air. The colony's defenses activated at once. Traps snapped shut. Turrets opened fire. Settlers held their ground with rifles and shields. "Above the moon, Tia's signal was sent now," she said from the darkness of space. 2 Alliance ships raced toward the colony. Their engines roared, cutting through the sky. Within seconds, they locked on the pirate ships and opened fire. The pirates panicked. Their lead ship tried to retreat but was hit by a focused blast and crashed behind the hills. On the ground, Derek led the defense with calm focus. He helped a settler fix a broken turret, pulled a wounded man to safety, covered a family running for shelter. Tia landed in the middle of the colony with her guards. She ran to the wall, eyes scanning the field. "Derek, are you all right?" she shouted, still breathing, he said, ducking under a blast. A group of pirates rushed the east gate. Tia's guards opened fire. Derek joined them, and together, they pushed back the attackers. The battle lasted for nearly an hour before the last. Pirate dropped his weapon and ran. The sky cleared. The ground smoked, and the colony still stood. Cheers broke out. Settlers hugged each other. Children cried with joy. Derek stood in the middle of it all, covered in dust and sweat. Tia walked over and smiled. "We did it," she said. He looked at her and nodded. "We did." That night, the town held a celebration. Lights hung between buildings, food was shared, music played. And for the first time, both humans and Zalari danced together. Derek and Tia stood near the fire, watching it all. "This," he said, "is what peace should look like." "Yes," Tia agreed. "And this is only the beginning." He looked at her, the firelight in his eyes. "You're going back with them tomorrow, aren't you?" "Just for a while," she said. "But I'll return. Promise." She placed her hand on his chest, over his heart. "I promise." I had the stars watched from above. 2 souls who once met in war now stood in peace, stronger together than they had ever been apart. 2 weeks later, Tia stood at the front of the Galactic Council Hall. Leaders from different species filled the room, their eyes on her. Screens showed live broadcasts of the colony on Epsilon 9, the pirate attack, and the peaceful celebration. That followed. She took a deep breath. "Years ago, a human saved my life in a war zone," she began. "He didn't know me. He didn't ask for anything. He simply helped because it was right." The room stayed silent. "Last week, that same human and I stood side by side to protect a colony made of humans and aliens. We didn't just fight. Off pirates, we proved something greater. We showed that peace is not just an idea, it is real, and it begins with people who care." Some council members nodded. A few clapped softly. Tia finished her speech and stepped down. Outside the council building, she met with her team. "Your speech reached over 60 systems. One of her assistants said. Any message from Epsilon? She asked. The assistant smiled. He watched the speech. Tia's heart lifted. She returned to her duties, attending meetings and writing reports. But each night, her thoughts drifted back to the quiet colony, to the small tree under the stars, and to the man who never tried to be a hero, but became one anyway. A month passed. Then a message arrived. It was short. It's just 5 words. The tree misses your voice. Thea smiled, closed her datapad, and walked straight to the transport dock. When her ship landed on Epsilon 9, the town looked brighter. The people were happier. The children ran toward her, shouting her name. Derek stood near the landing pad, arms crossed, trying not to smile too much. You're late, he said. You sent the message 2 days ago, she replied. Still late. They laughed, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. As they walked through town, Thea noticed a new school being built. Solar lights lined the main path, and near the well, someone had planted more trees. This place is growing, she said. They believe in the future now, Derek replied. They're not just surviving anymore, they're building. They reached the old tree. It had more leaves now, its branches reaching higher. Thea sat under it and closed her eyes. It does feel like home. Derek sat beside her. I've been thinking. About what? About staying quiet for too long. I always told myself I wasn't meant for anything big. But after everything ... I think maybe I still have more to give. Thea looked at him. You do? He turned to her, more serious now. You've given people hope, Thea. Not just through words, but through action. You didn't just come here, you stayed. You fought. With us, you changed lives. You changed mine first, she said softly. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind. Then Derek said, There's something else. She raised her eyebrows. What is it? He pulled something from his pocket. It was the old blue stone, now wrapped in a thin silver thread like a pendant. I want you to have it back. Thea looked at it, her eyes wide. God, but you've kept it for so long. I've carried it through war, pain, and silence, he said. But now, I want it to mean something new. She took the stone gently and held it in her hands. It already does. They smiled at each other, a quiet understanding between. Then will you stay? He asked. She thought for a moment. I can't stay forever. My work still matters. But I don't have to be gone all the time. So you'll come back? Again and again, she said. Good, Derek replied. Because this place feels different when you're here. In the months that followed, Thea worked between the stars and the soil. She still gave speeches, helped write peace plans, and stood before powerful leaders. But she also returned often to Epsilon 9, walking dusty paths, planting trees, and sitting beside Derek under the sky together. They helped turn the colony into something more, a place where humans and aliens worked side by side, where kindness led before fear, and where children grew up hearing stories not of war, no, but of a blue stone that saved a girl, and a girl who never forgot the one who saved her. The story spread. They became symbols, not because they were perfect, but because they were real, flawed, brave, and always reaching for better. And on one quiet evening, as stars filled the sky, Derek turned to Tia and asked, Do you think everything happens for a reason? She leaned against him and whispered, I don't know, but I know one thing. What's that? I'm glad you were there that day. I'm glad you didn't walk past me. I'm glad you stayed. He looked at her with soft eyes. I'm glad you found me. And under the tree that once stood alone, they sat together, 2 souls. Once lost in war, now found in peace, forever changed, forever connected, forever remembered.